My name is Jason Bowey. I am an instructor here at the Recording Arts Institute of Saskatchewan. I teach the Game Art and Design course, so it's a one-year diploma course that teaches students the basics of game design, coding, some basic art stuff, and the process of creating a game from scratch to completion. Day to day, I come in, I teach from 9 a.m. until about 2:30. That's when the students are here. They're welcome to stay afterwards. After 2:30, I generally stick around and help students with questions if they have any, if they want to go through stuff or review or things like that. I also spend the time working on my own things, like working on my own games and that kind of thing as well. And that's pretty much my day to day. I am also in charge of preparing the curriculum for the course, all the assignments, exams, basically all the material for the course I'm creating and responsible for. The opportunities with game design are quite broad. There's the working at a game studio career route, where if you work at like EA or a big company like that, where you have a much more specialized role. So for example, you're an artist where you do specific art things, modeling, 2D drawings, Photoshop, all that kind of stuff, or programming where you're doing more programming centered, programming mechanics and things like that. And then there's also design, which is more of the higher level, this is how the game should behave and work. Then there's the more indie route, where if you're working for a small studio or running your own company or something more along those lines, where you have a much more broad set of skills and set of duties, where you're not producing a specific piece of a game, you're doing more of a lot of the game, you're doing like all the art, or you're doing a bunch of different programming things, or a bunch of different mechanics. A really big issue in the gaming industry now, especially big companies like EA and some of those larger game studios, there's a real big problem with crunch, with really, really long hours for very little compensation or additional compensation, and just sort of the expectation that when a game is 6 months up to being released, you're there kind of all the time working on stuff. That's something people generally don't necessarily realize when they're going into it. There's also, like as an example, testing games it sounds fun, like the idea of being a game tester and spending your day playing games, but in reality, testing a game is doing the same thing over and over again, trying to break it. And so you're not playing the game, you're playing the boring parts of a game and trying to find where they break. So those are some of the downsides. I mean, it sounds great to be doing the thing you love, and that's true. Making games is really fun. It's really fun to start with nothing, write some lines of code, click some buttons, drag some stuff around in an engine, and then have something that's up and running. And you can actually physically play and interact with and share with your friends. And working in a game studio is essentially that all day long as well. But there's this distinction between making the game and playing the game, and making the game is very different than playing it. So just because you enjoy playing games doesn't mean that you would enjoy making them, because they're sort of two different skill sets. So when I was doing my PhD, I worked as a TA a couple times, so a teaching assistant for the games course there, the third year games course. And then after a couple of years, I applied to work as a sessional lecturer, so I was actually teaching the courses, a couple courses at the university. I taught two of the games courses, and I taught a couple first year courses, and I just really liked teaching. In particular, I really liked teaching the games courses because I got to teach the students things that I love to do, and I also got to see them grow, and at the end of the year, they had a somewhat completed game that they all made, which was really nice to see, like a final product that came out of the semester of teaching. So I sat down with my PhD supervisor probably a couple of years ago, and we were talking about my career options, and I could have went down the route of game design, like working at like a studio like EA or something. That didn't really feel like it was for me. Working in academia was a possibility as well, but I enjoy doing research, but research wasn't really as exciting to me as making games and teaching people. So the ideal career for me, we decided, was teaching students how to make games, basically, teaching a games course. And so when this opportunity came up a year and a half ago, I applied and I got the job. And then since then I've been designing this course, getting it accredited, going through all that process of creating this new game design course here. And it's sort of my dream career right now. There are lots of opportunities now that they can learn the basics of game design. Like we have the course that we do with SIEC, the Game On Bootcamp that we're currently we have 2 weeks left, I believe. Right now it's taught over Zoom, so it's basically 8 weeks, 3 hours each week of here's how to make a game. Follow along. We'll take you through the whole process of using a game engine. So that's one option. Moving forward, there's obviously like the university route, getting a degree in like something like computer science or interactive systems design, learning how to code, learning how to design things. There are some game design courses at the university that students can take, but they don't necessarily have to wait until they graduate, because there's so many free tools out there. Like there's the Unity game engine, which is free to download, free to use. There are hundreds, if not thousands, of free video tutorials on how to use it from all types of different sources. So if a student really wants to learn how to make a video game, all they have to do is sit in front of a computer, watch some tutorials, and put in the time and effort that it takes to learn this stuff. The course here at RAIS obviously is really good for teaching the basics of how to build a game, how to make art for a game, how to integrate all these things together, how to build the game. We're also covering a little bit of how to publish your game and the business side of it. Tech isn't going anywhere anytime soon, so it's a pretty reliable source of income and experience. So having some knowledge in ICT in general is always good, no matter what career you have. And careers in general are becoming more and more integrated with technology and ICT and things like that. If you have interests outside of technology, something like if you're interested in like finance, for example, you could work in a technical career that's tangential to a bank. And then you're able to use technical skills as well as more field specific, right? And games as well have the technical base of code, of the game engine and all these technical pieces, but they're also tangentially created to art, where if you're an artist, you're building a game, but you can also create 3D models, you can create 2D images, and you can integrate these things with your game. Or psychology, which is like learning how the player thinks and being able to integrate that with the tech. So working in tech really allows you the opportunity to work with other fields as well in the technical base or the technical context. We have there's local game design clubs that meet, I think now they meet over Zoom at the university, and like just showcase games and things like that. There's opportunities like game jams, which is a weekend kind of hackathon where people get together in groups and build games and share their games and win prizes and things like that. So there's lots of opportunities locally for people to learn these skills, to take those skills and to pursue them. That's not to say that if you wanted to work for something like EA, you would have to leave Saskatchewan, but that's no longer, like working for a big studio is no longer the only option to be successful in the field.